metrics, I found more people listen to it through our RSS feed, where that goes everywhere way more than YouTube. And of course, YouTube
Yeah.
does their fuckery with the
Oh, dude.
censorship. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I listen to I just some people like because like you can't I remember when YouTube started, you could like slide it out and still have it play, and now like if you slide out of the screen, you lose it.
Yeah.
Let me do this. So it's like horrible. Let me take this off. Perfect. All right. All right. So I'll hit record it and then we'll get started.
Perfect.
All right, everyone. Welcome. If you're watching live, I don't know, I'll put the link up, but welcome to Conspiracy or Just a Coincidence. So today I was just talking with him about it. One of like the first podcasts that I listened to, The Conspiracy Farm with Jeff Wilson. And you've been on everything. So dude, thanks for being on my show. I know you are, like I said, a pillar of the podcasting and like conspiracy movement or whatever. So thanks for coming on, dude.
Well, I appreciate it. And of course, you can never forget my sidekick, UFC Hall of Famer Pat Miletich. He's really the one who spearheaded this. He's the one who asked me to jump on board.
Really?
And that's kind of the story of it. Yeah. But no, thank you. I mean, obviously we're, like I was saying off air, there's an ocean of podcasts now. And I think, which is a cool thing, variety is the spice of life. If some people say the market it can be oversaturated, but like I said, if you want to make blueberry muffins and chocolate chip cookies, there's a podcast for it. If you want to learn about marine biology, it's cool, man. It's cool.
Yeah.
And thank you for having me on.
Oh, dude, anytime. So I mean, first thing I had, like I gave you some topics, but I maybe I'm like being so cynical, but so obviously you had John McAfee on your show.
Yes.
And what is your take on that whole situation?
Well, as you can imagine, I do not believe that official story whatsoever.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy, even in the most recent video I posted on Twitter where he was interviewing somebody, and he said, I forget what it was the U.S. Embassy, they wouldn't let him in, and he wound up donating a shit ton of computers to the embassy and wound up, through his antivirus software, had all these backdoors in it.
Mhm.
But if you bought a computer in the mid to late 90s, I think is when he was so ubiquitous, you had McAfee antivirus stuff on your computer.
Yeah.
So he was backdooring I mean, of course, there's other people who've been installing software in government computers, et cetera, that have been backdooring our shit, but he definitely was one of them. And so, I mean,
Right.
he knew a lot, man. He knew a lot about a lot of people. And, really, and the things he said about, hey, if I kill myself, I didn't kill myself. And you know what? That's what's so fucking spooky, man. Even jokingly, I've asked certain guests who've come on, like, hey, make sure you say you'll never kill yourself, right? Or even I'll be like, hey, you guys, Pat, I'm speaking for Pat, we'll never hang ourselves. You can even say that now, and they'll still fucking take you out.
Yeah, dude.
And he was no small fish, man.
What's your because like so I like don't I just get I don't know, everything's so confusing, but like so he has an active Twitter account, has potentially damaging information on the US government. Like that's where I struggle is like, do you think he could really avoid capture for that long?
Well, I mean, it was for, if I remember correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, listeners, it was a tax issue. It was a tax evasion issue. I don't even think. And then I heard something a little bit more about crypto pump and dump or something like that, something having to do with cryptocurrency. But I mean, it's like, really, this level of corruption, so like not even banal, but I mean, talking to people about corruption in fucking DC is what they say in Apocalypse Now, like handing out speeding tickets at the Indy 500. Yeah. Are you kidding me? John McAfee's on your list? Give me a fucking break.
Yeah. It's like so hard to trust anything anymore. That's like where I've become like so jaded.
Welcome to my world, my friend. Welcome to my world.
But it's true though. Like, dude, I've lost like all faith. Because I remember listening to you guys. I think you're on Charlie's show like a year and a half back, and I remember you guys weren't like on the Trump. Probably because you had experience, you saw this.
Pat was. I'll drop dime on his ass. He's got to accommodate. He was. Pat was.
Oh,
Pat
really?
Pat was down with Trump, Q, the Insurrection Act. Trump's going to take us back, put us back on the gold standard, kill the Fed. I love you, champ, but I mean, that is what you said. But again, but in all truth, his thought and mindset evolved as we kind of, because I remember when we first came on to 2015, 2016, he was all about Trump. And it was, I wouldn't know. I understand it's both two sides of the same coin, WWE, But I mean, it was a cult of personality that just swung to the right. The same as Obama to the left. It was like, hey, I'm cool. I hang out with Jay-Z. I'm fucking this and this. And Trump's that same vibe, dude. They can't do the old 1,000 points of lights type politics anymore. Trump's in the fucking WWE Hall of Fame, for fuck's sake. He clotheslined Vince McMahon. Right. And unfortunately, you know, in this pop culture world and celebrity world, this is what we're looking at for our leaders. Look at fucking The Rock's talking about running. I mean, this is just what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think I would almost like give more credit to that early time, because he was like kind of, so you think of like conservatives like old crusty, which they all are, but you know, I mean, you have this guy full of life saying things that, you know, you're not really, I guess, allowed to say or whatever. So it was easy to get, but I was on it for a while, dude. That's why
I mean, that's all good, man. But it's, again, with me, I don't know how old you are, and it doesn't really matter, but my first foray into this whole fucking world was, I think I was like 15 or 16 in my basement, and still living with my parents, obviously. And there was a documentary on A&E called Reasonable Doubt. And it was about the Kennedy assassination. Dude, my young ass pulled that string, and here I am today. So even as a young man, I'm like, wow, they can take out the president under dubious circumstances. And the cover up is so vast. Local police, media, to the Supreme Court, for fuck's sake. And so it was like, anything's on the table now. Anything is on the table if this is the level of fuckery. And even going down the rabbit hole from that into everything else, you know, geopolitically, et cetera, the grand chessboard, as the Big New Brzezinski calls it. I mean, you realize, as the mantra kind of our Twitter page of the Conspiracy Farm, nothing is as it seems. And you would almost be, you know, that's why I often say it's like a Stockholm syndrome. Why do we listen to the same, not just individuals, but the same entities that have lied to us over and over and over again? That's why it's so funny. Every 4 to 8 years, you know, we do the whole like, oh man, did you hear that? No one said that before. Well, he really you know, he's saying what I want to hear during campaign season, of course. And then once they get in, the same thing comes, like, oh, he's not doing what he said he was going to do, or she, whatever, not to be sexist.
But hey, you'll get in trouble, dude.
Yeah, I know. But it's just, I just don't get it. And we took a big break for a while on the show. And for me, man, I don't do the victory laps on, hey, I was right about everything. But I mean, we've all stewed on a lot of the same stuff. So see what's going on now in all of its, you know, shit showedness. It's really been hard for me to get my mind around how bad it is right now and how we've kind of just sat by and let it happen. You know, I guess there's voices like ours, et cetera, but you talking about the masses, if you will. We're in trouble, man. We're in fucking trouble.
Dude, and it's just, I'm sure I've like, you know, relatively new to politics, but like the divide, I mean, the general public is, you know, they haven't read a book in forever. They just consume propaganda, but they're so, like in my office, my one boss is like a staunch Republican, the other's not. And they'll just never see. Like he, and the one side will be like, oh, you just don't have the right information. And that's what the other, you know what I mean? Yes, and it's just so comical, because it's like you're consuming just the different sides. Like, it's not like they don't know, you know, it's just.
But this appeals to one of our base biological needs is our tribalism. You know, having your tribes back, whether it's the fucking Pawnee and the Sioux, whether it's the Crips and the Bloods, whether, you know, any faction of divide and conquer. And that's what the social engineers and the architects of our society, if you will, they know that about us. They know we are viscerally tribal to the death. And so what they do, and what we've seen now, even before 2020 happened, I kept saying, and it's just obvious, they're going to play, leading up to the 2020 election, they're going to take all these groups they divided us into and play those groups off against each other. It's just an ancient, tried and true military tactic of divide and conquer. And because we are so willfully tribal and viscerally tribal, we almost fall for it all the time, to the point like your boy's like, oh, you're not getting the right information. The other guy's like, oh, you're listening to fucking propaganda. Both sides swear they are right. Yeah. But like you said, people don't read books. People do read books, but they often just read books that helps them stay in their echo chamber and confirm their already existing bias. It's so hard, you know, going back to the Matrix, you know, you don't want to give people the red pill when they're too old, or even in Star Wars, Obi-Wan's like, man, you're a little too old. I don't want to train you when you're this, or whoever it was trained Anakin, or even Luke, because we're set in our ways. It's hard to unfucking unlearn a really structurally locked in mindset. You know, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, et cetera, et cetera. But we have to start doing that. We have to start putting our tribalism aside and realize They don't give a fuck about any of our groups. Shit's ran by eugenicists. I mean, I don't even. We can get into that if you want to. They don't give a fuck about any of us. They killed the fucking president riding down the fucking street in the middle of the afternoon, sitting next to his wife.
Right.
They don't give a fuck, but they know we do. So that's what makes us easier pawns to be moved around on the chessboard. Sorry for the rant there.
No, it was that was passionate, bro. What do you think? So like, because I don't know how you get the public to accept the other side, because they make one side just so insane, and then
right.
But where do you see, like, do you think this path can? Because you've been in it for a while, so have you ever seen a divide that is like what we have now?
Well, I mean, fuck, you go back. I don't know why that just came to my mind, because I was watching a documentary on it just a little ago. William Wallace. Just there's been so many different tribal difference, political difference, ethnic differences. It's hard for me to quantify them. And that's what we wind up getting into. Well, not so much about the divide. It's as bad as it's ever been, to answer your question. But when we always get into these, who suffered the most, it turns into this Olympics of suffering of like, well, my group suffered more than yours, so fuck you and this and that. Well, they've been demonizing us. I get it to some degree, but you can't. We're all getting fucked again. We don't need to compare notes on who's been fucked the most. We've all been fucked, and we're all going to continue to be fucked.
Right.
And going back to what you started that question out with, a lot of people I know, and the champ included, because he is so passionate about it. I don't get these Facebook rants back and forth. Do you think you're going to change somebody's mind on a Facebook post?
Great point, dude.
And not even just on Facebook. You can't have the yin without the yang. Not everybody's going to get it. Not every. And I sound like people like, hey, you just don't know. I hate sounding like that, but it's like expecting everybody to get it. Man, when I was younger, I'd get into those bar conversations about religion, politics. And I am very passionate about it, but a lot of my thought was like, so what's your end game here? Can't he have his thoughts and you have your thoughts? I was like, no, you're fucking wrong. Not literally, but you're an idiot if you don't think how I think.
Right. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's, everyone's just got to find their own way, and not even begin to say I'm right about everything. But yeah.
No, yeah. I also see, like, I can't see it getting, because this divide has been created, and they're so, I mean, I hate but like their plan has been brilliant. Whether you don't need to believe in a secret. It may not be a secret society. I don't know what it is, but they're so.
It's brilliant. Wickedly brilliant. Absolutely. And again, this goes back to, we're so binary and so moment to moment. These guys know us better than we know ourselves. And I'm talking about like the social engineers, behavioral scientists, these marketing people that break us all down to just metrics and algorithms, if you will. And that's what the globalists, the eugenics, they think like, man. We're just going to work, coming home. My show's on tonight at 9:00. These guys' agendas are 25, 30, 50. And if you talk about Agenda 21, 100 years plus agenda for society.
I've been reading this one book. I can't say that because it'll get flagged, but so this new theory it's like an old book, but it was written that, like, and I just want your take on it. So it says basically that the Freemasons, our founding fathers were all Freemasons, and that they openly admit that they were the cause of the European revolutions, all in overthrowing the monarchy and the church. And they did that because that was the strongest line of defense from bankers and all this stuff to come in. And that's why predominantly, they came to America and they wrote this republic, made a constitution and a republic. And this guy, I forget the author's name, but his theory is that the best form of government to protect the people is a monarchy and a church. What's your feeling on that?
Well, we've seen how that plays out, and it hasn't really worked out too well.
I was just because it was like an interesting, because it's true that our founding fathers were Freemasons, high level.
See, I think, and when people talk about those guys, I mean, who runs what, you know what I mean? I think the Freemasons are just another arm, like the Council of 300, Trilateral Commission, CFR, any of these groups, think tanks, secret societies, if you will. At the end of the day, we're still, I disagree with his premise, we're still ran by global bankers. If you go back to the Rothschilds and even just, those guys have been funding wars on both sides for centuries. I mean, even the communist, excuse me, Chinese party, even the Soviet Union, even to some degree, people talk about the Nazi party. This is their grand chessboard. Again, this is, we'll go to war for a few years. We'll kill a couple million people. I mean, that's nothing to them. This is, if you remember the game Stratego or Risk, this is just a real time Risk game for them. And
the Ukraine is weak. That's from Seinfeld. Isn't that, don't they play Risk? Do you watch Seinfeld?
Yeah, of course, man, of course.
The Ukraine is weak. That's what he says. But yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right.
Just, yeah.
Well, so what do you think that, because like, so obviously big banks fund, they fund the Bolshevik Revolution, all this stuff like that. Do you think it's this because again, that same, I'll send you the book, but he said like they fund these communist revolutions or whatever. They realize that, eventually once you weaken the punishment, people will revolt in like a full communistic society. That's why like the Soviet Union fell, or the Bolsheviks kind of fell. And like, that's why, so they want to get,
they though?
I don't, like China. Good.
I mean, just going back, not just the Russia. See, this could get me in trouble. But there was a lot. The guy kind of, was it Eugene McCarthy? McCarthy, who was like, we're being infiltrated by fucking communists. If it wasn't Eugene, it was another McCarthy.
Right. Yeah.
But McCarthy. I mean, I've been learning, and I will just say the infiltration has been deep, and it's going on. It's been going on for a long time. You start talking about the Frankfurt School. We are more deeply infiltrated by, for lack of a better term, you could call it socialist, you could call it democratic socialism, or communist, for a long fucking time, dude. And I didn't realize that till somewhat recently, over the last few years.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, and this, media, like, because they know what positions of power they need to hold. That, and it's not like they need to be on the front lines fighting. If you control the paper, you control. I mean, I was like thinking about like how much TV influenced my childhood. And that power is like, because it does, you don't even know, like,
bro, that's what I'm saying. I implore everyone to watch the documentary called The Century of Self. If you're sitting around bored for several hours, I'm telling you, it is like a college tutorial in psyops, in marketing, in how they appeal to, like I was saying, how they know who we are from a biological, psychological standpoint. I'm sorry. What was your?
I just like, they just can even just like the little. I mean, we see. I'm sure you saw like that Blue Clues.
Oh yes.
But like, it's just so. And I wonder what that will push out in the generation. I think
for sure. Well, again, not just that documentary. I think I remember my train of thought. I just lost it again. Yeah, damn it. Well, no, it's just professional psyops, man. Professional psyops. And they're so good at it. They're so very good at it.
It's amazing, dude. And like, how would you recommend people? Because like, I watched Seinfeld at dinner, but they just took it off Hulu. But besides that, like, how do people break out of? Because it affects you more than all of us know. So like, what's your tip on how to see outside that? Because most people are so tired, they just go home from work, like you said, and just
and then do it all over again. Well, again, this is part of Operation Mockingbird. At post World War II, the national security state, which was set up, which is we're seeing the byproducts of it now. Operation Mockingbird was a huge part of it. You could control people. You can control their behavior and their thought process if you're controlling the narratives that they basically ingest. And we ingest so much bullshit through our TV. But Operation Mockingbird, where they put government officials inside these major media markets. Why do we see only 4 or 5 companies owning all these different subsidiaries? And even William Colby, man, go look at the video of William Colby, former CIA head, testifying to the Church Committee about basically how they have Defense Department and CIA people in media outlets all over, from on air to print to radio, and it's it's everywhere. But like I say oftentimes in the show, your solution to the problem will be erroneous. It'll be pointless unless you're really addressing the premise of the problem you're trying to solve. Basically, like, an alcoholism or drug addict, you can't change unless you recognize there's a problem. There will be no change.
The first step, I think. I was in the program. I forget if it was
or something like that. But again, we're so trapped in our mental comfort zone and our confirmation bias and our echo chambers to even recognize that's the other thing. We have so much ego in our worldview. Even cosmology, we think we're the only ones on the fucking in the universe and shit. So it's hard for us to ever admit that we're wrong because we put so much ego into, you don't got the right information. I got the fucking right information. Right. And that's the big thing. And again, that appeals especially with dudes to our level of, please, I'm in no way saying toxic masculinity is real, but that's like a fucking dude thing. Like, I know my shit, dude. I'm telling you. And that's kind of what a lot of this info is, 80 to 90% real shit.
That's a really good point.
And then you slip in 10 to 15% bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah. And also you're right with like even in like in this, whatever alt media community or whatever, it's it's like you have instead of like working for the same goal. I don't know if it's like creative divide or maybe a lot.
No, ego. Dude, I saw, and I was having a conversation with a friend about this. If you know what COINTELPRO is, the counterintelligence program, which went in and subverted a whole bunch of social groups back in the day, anti-war groups, that just infiltrate and cause fuckery and subterfuge, if you will. And so, dude, I smelled it like a fart in a fucking car a few years ago. All these different quote unquote truth pages, conspiracy shows, or, just people who said, my intel sources say blah, blah, blah. This alt thing that we talk about and that we're on now or whatever, it's been infiltrated as long as the day is, long as the day is long, is whatever the term is. It's heavily infiltrated, but that's their fucking job. I just posted something on our Twitter page. It was a Time Magazine report about one of the biggest branches of I think it was the Pentagon or Defense Department, maybe even the FBI, is thousands and thousands of people coming out, making podcasts, starting social groups.
Damn, dude.
Leaders on college campuses. I mean, and this is oftentimes how they recruit other agents and operatives, et cetera. But it's crazy how, it's obviously part of the wicked plan.
Yeah.
The best social engineering is when you don't realize it's happening to you.
Yeah,
that's literally what we're dealing with right now. And again, I had to really take a break from the show and my mind's still not around it, dude, because so much, and again, I'm not doing the victory lap. So much of the shit we've talked about, we've had guests on. Rosa Quarry, God bless her soul, she recently passed away this past month. She was an Agenda 21 warrior, Agenda 2030. Go listen to that episode if you haven't, episode 150. It literally breaks down everything we've been seeing and what we're seeing right now. Restrictions on meat, restrictions on energy, oil, going to be water, these hacks, which of course aren't Russians or Chinese. These are false flag inside jobs to get us used to the fact that, we're going to turn into some Hunger Games type shit, restrictions on access to resources. It's been slowly happening. Nothing can happen overnight. That's why it's called conditioning. You know what I mean? The Pavlovian dog gets used to hearing the bell and then salivates when he hears the bell because he knows it means food. So again, these are behavioral scientists, mastermind fucking psychologists, social engineers who put this shit together, man.
Dude, it's scary. It's like, because I think I listened to a little bit of the Agenda 21 and everything like that. What is, if you want, for anyone that doesn't know, what are the Agenda 21 and 2030?
Well, it's just, Rosa could say it way better than I did. It's a restriction on resources. It's an inventory of resources and limiting the resources to the masses, basically getting rid of cash, turning everything digital, moving everybody away from rural areas and moving them into basically mega cities where literally everything is tagged and monitored. And I always use this. If you've seen the movie Judge Dredd or even read the comic, that's what it was. These certain mega cities, or even they call them FEMA regions right now. You can see the maps where these big areas, getting rid of sovereignty, state sovereignty, getting rid of state-run government. A lot of what we're seeing right now and what we're going to continue to see is your Bill Gates, your Fauci's of the world, these unelected bureaucrats who are controlling our lives basically through their recommendations, edicts, the NIH, the CDC, et cetera, et cetera. This is just, again, with Agenda 21 being a year of a plan for the 21st century, not just 2021, we're just scratching the surface. We're just getting started. Dude. This is the fourth industrial revolution, the new normal. All the shit that ever been written about, Isaac Asimov, all this science fiction shit, we're about to walk right into it, dude. Your Neuralink that fucking Musk is pumping out, the Starlink, which is going to have you linked into everything, the Internet of Things. When Alex Jones said your appliances are listening to you, that's not necessarily from an auditory standpoint, obviously, but they're reading your energy consumption. You know, all of this stuff's going to be monitored. And ultimately, when the cash goes away and you start getting credits to live, it'll be based off the numbers that they're crunching from your consumption. And if you run out of credits in that month, you are fucked. That's why I was saying it's going to be some Hunger Games type shit, man.
That, you know, I also think, I don't know if you've seen this, but it seems like more and more people are like realizing that this kind of world is coming, because you see more and more people like buying land, homesteading. Because,
absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, that's like my goal is, you know, in like 2 years, buy some more land, like get land and all that, have this stuff, because I think our great grandparents, whoever, they got it wrong. They thought like that was the hard life, to be in the city was the good life. And it was probably, again, propaganda.
And that's still very difficult work. You know, there's plenty of cool shows on, you know, PBS, whatever, homesteading. It is not fucking easy, especially coming from the world of creature comforts. Like, we have everything. Just go to the store and you're fucking good. This is a whole different lifestyle. And you're absolutely right, man. I have friends who are selling their house, getting RVs, buying land out in the sticks. But again, this is something the globalists, if you remember at the beginning of COVID, how hard it was to get seeds. They were not even selling seeds at certain places to people. They don't want people to be self-sufficient.
Right.
That's what they're going to seriously, well, they've always been frowning on. But no, I mean, I think, you know, again, listen to episode 150 and listen to Rosa Koire break it down way better than I can. But again, it's everything they're, you know, all these terms, the new normal, fourth industrial revolution, these are all echoes and ripple effects of what they determined in 1996. I believe it was Rio de Janeiro, the Agenda 21 summit, basically, where all these countries agreed that basically this is, you know, all that Green New Deal, it's all a part of Agenda 21.
Damn, dude.
And again, it takes us off our rural land. It's not even, I mean, we're moving basically towards China, social credit score, et cetera. People will worry about, oh, the vaccine, are the military going to come to my door and force it to me? They're not going to have to, because like China with your social credit, we saw it with the mask. If you don't have a mask, you can't come in and shop or eat at this place you've always eaten at. Okay, so you've already being maligned because of a choice you decided to make. Now it's going to be the vaccines. And then all these other, you know, without the vaccines, you can't go to Europe right now. You can't go to Canada. Right. They're going to make it, you can't, you know, a macro version of not being able to go to your favorite bar or grocery store. You're not going to be able to go to a basketball game. Your kids aren't going to be able to go to school. You won't be able to participate in normal society unless you're one of whatever, you know, whatever it will be. Right now it's the vaccine, but soon it'll be, you know, in China with the facial recognition cameras. I saw the video of the guy walking across, he jaywalked, and then he got a prompt on his phone. Hey, Jake, we just saw you jaywalk. Boom, minus 20 credit. Now you can't ride the bus for a week or 2 weeks. Now you can't take a train. So that's what's coming here, man. China is the model, and it's going to be global, if you will. But when you talk about Agenda 21, it's a global international plan that is executed locally. That's why I say to everyone, know your sheriff. Go to your city council meetings. Create your own groups. Make sure the fuckers aren't infiltrated. But because this is how it happens, and they always get these local representatives or county commissioners with dough. Hey, here's this federal mandate with fucking millions and tens of millions attached for your little county, but you got to do what we say.
Right.
That's how back in the 50s with the Interstate Commerce Act, and that's why we got interstates through the country, which it's fine. But states that were resistant to it, they're like, oh, you don't want our interstate through your thing? Okay, you're not getting this shit ton of federal money.
That's
so it just becomes,
dude. I didn't know that. That's I didn't know.
Oh, dude. I mean, it's always the dough. It's always the fucking dough.
But I didn't know that about the interstate. So they were, because they did what? They obviously didn't want like a major road through there, whatever.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was all. I mean, think about how it was. There were still fucking, you know, in the 50s. There was. I mean, the rural areas were even more rural. Barely. I mean, clearly not paved. You had basically your highways. I mean, granted, it's not a referendum on necessarily this interstate shouldn't have gone through, but I mean, people may have arguments. It's about how they get people to do it through basically, you know, blackmail or, you know, not even just blackmail or bribery. Like, if you don't do this, you're not going to get this fucking dough.
Right. You also brought up a interesting point with like, because the organizing thing, obviously I think you're right with like, you're organizing like your community. I think that's like a big distinction, because you see, like, I don't want to say low IQ, but people think like, I'm going to join this militia group.
Oh, yeah.
Like, dude, I have like a funny meme. It's like all stick figures, and it's like, you know, informant, FBI agent.
Always, every fucking time.
Yeah.
Every time.
So I think
that's why I think those are hilarious. I mean, because maybe I'm just older, and again going back to my fucking just inherent cynicism. Anytime I see big groups like that, whether it's the what's the black dude, DJ, whatever. There's a black, I forget the name of the group, man.
Yeah,
they're not fucking around crew or whatever.
Right.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so, I mean that dude is, you know. And even the Proud Boys, we find out the head of the fucking Proud Boys is an informant. I mean, it's. I don't like to say shit like low IQ or whatever, but it goes to our tribalism. Man, that guy, point. Fuck yeah, he's talking about the shit I'm talking about. Fuck yeah, he's got a fucking leather jacket on. He pull up on a motorcycle. He's got a big scruffy fucking beard. Like he's wearing the right shit. He's wearing the right uniform. And he's saying the right thing. And that's almost where we stop sometimes. We don't get into like, oh man, there's multiple dimensions to this shit. There's layers to this shit. There's layers to this individual. I mean, but again, it's easy for us to get duped, man. It's just very easy for us to, unless you really do your homework and have your bullshit meter up and have a context of history. You know, again, go back in history. It's always some insider that fucks it up, that gets infiltrated, or that infiltrates the group. You know, from fucking, you know, from the mafia, Donnie Brasco type shit, but again, they've been doing this so well forever. There was a guy, I mean, just going back to like spy networks, and I don't know why this comes to my mind, but I read a book called The Mossad, obviously the Israeli Mossad, like the top level Israeli intelligence.
Yes.
Dude, this cat named fucking this spy, and they made a series on it on Netflix starring Sacha Cohen. I was like, holy fuck. So I read this when I was a kid. His name was Eli Cohen. This motherfucker was Syrian, and I'm sorry, he was Israeli, a spy for the Israelis, and was so dope at what he did. He infiltrated the Syrian government to the point, I think, and I could be wrong, he almost became basically the Minister of Defense or Secretary of Defense for Syria. But he wound up getting pinched and he fucking got taken out. But I'm just saying, dude, people don't get that world exists when we're talking about joining groups, especially big groups. I'm telling you, if you're going to do some organization, literally do it on a very local level. You're start with your neighborhood. You know what I mean? You want your neighbors to have your back if something's going down. Everybody go a community guard. I mean, just there's so many different ways. Get to know your sheriff, etc. Right. But again, you go to some of these counties, the sheriff's already been bought off. Sometimes most of them are cool as shit. We got one. We got a great one here in Iowa, in where I'm at right now. But
oh wow, you're not nice. You're in Iowa.
Yeah, I've been bouncing back between St.Louis. I don't know if you know, I work for this mixed martial arts promotion. I call their fights, and I co-own the company that does their pay-per-view. So.
Very cool, dude.
That's up here in Iowa. But anyway, organize locally, because the plan, again, the larger executed plan is an international plan. If you want to go back and read about Agenda 21, the summit in Rio de Janeiro in 1996. But again, listen to the episode 150 with Rosa Corey. Again, God bless her soul. She breaks it down and knocks it out of the park. And she had been doing it for 20 plus years. And it again, you know, I even re-listened to it a few days ago before I even knew she died, because I reposted it. And somebody said like ROP Rosa. And that one fucked me up, honestly, dude.
Yeah.
I was pretty upset by it. Well, she died of lung cancer. She almost died a year to the day when we had her on. And some reports said it was an aggressive lung cancer. I don't know. I mean, if she died naturally, either way, God bless her soul. She was a warrior. Absolutely. But it was just really upsetting, and the timing of it was crazy because, as I say, when you listen to that episode, things become so clear right now. Like, you know, when you start hearing about the hacks on the oil and water, she's been talking about that for 20 years, man, how they're just going to, and one of the aspects, how they're going to restrict resources, et cetera, et cetera. But it's great timing to watch that, to listen to that episode.
Yeah, definitely. I have a lot of time these next 2 days, so I'm going to check it out.
Yeah. And it's barely shit. As dope as the episode was, I think we barely even went an hour.
Wow.
I just teed her up with the right questions, and she just went off. But it's a very Cliff Notes, very comprehensive understanding or description of Agenda 21, Agenda 2030. And please, I implore you, continue to do your homework after that.
Mm-hmm. Here, I know this doesn't, but so big crypto is huge. What is what's your take on crypto?
I mean, it may not be, it's the whole concept of crypto, blockchain, et cetera. It is going to revolutionize how economics are done soon, as soon as, you know, fiat currency goes away. I don't know if Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, et cetera, are the be all end all right now, because so many people are just having fun with it. You look at Dogecoin, that started out as a fucking joke. Right. One of my good friends, he got into Doge I think 26. Anyway, he just sold a little chunk of Doge that I think $380 or whatever the fuck he said he got in at. He just bought a fucking 2018 brand new sick Beamer, fucking doors that flip up on the side. But he owns a mining facility and all this other shit. He's all about it. He did 20 years in banking and now 10 years in crypto. He's a really smart guy about it. And he keeps telling me, he's like, Jeff, fucking set up a Coinbase, set up this. They just put little bits in, man. You know, he has his own little formula. But to answer your question, I think it's very fascinating. People are making a lot of money from it, and I think they will continue to. One of those things I look out for, I see Wells Fargo, I see Goldman Sachs, I see these big banks demonizing it, and the only reason I think they're demonizing it, and we know they're creating their own. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
So we're gonna see almost like when the internet came out. Remember Alta Vista, Netscape, you know, all these different browsers that all wound up whittling down to one or two. So that's what we're going to see with crypto. And it could be, I mean, like with China, they're like, if my boy had his set up in China, he's got rows and rows and rows in this pretty big space just mining for Bitcoin. You go in there, it sounds like fucking Harrier jump jets. His electric bill is like, what do you say? His electric bill is like $30K a month, but he's making tall bank. But anyway, long story short, those kind of facilities, if he was in China, they'd have that shit shut down. So I just don't know. I think it's very interesting. I think crypto is very interesting. Like I said, people are making good money on it. I just don't know how long governments and central banks are going to allow it to continue, because not just competition, again, frowning on self-sufficiency. They want to be the fucking dealers of the cards. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It just seemed, again, like jadedness and cynicism is coming in, but like I feel like anything they don't want to happen, it would never happen. You know, so I like get nervous, like, is this, like, I do invest a little bit in crypto, but I am not like 100% sold, because when something, or like name one thing that's truly organic that the government didn't create from, I don't know.
And I don't get, I mean, someone way smarter than me could explain blockchain and all that shit. I'm thinking anything done online or digitally is trackable.
Yeah.
And some people are like, oh, fuck no, this is all decentralized, et cetera, et cetera. I'm like, somebody's got the keepers of the cheese. You know what I mean? Somebody's, you know, I don't know if that's Satoshi, if he ever existed.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't want to say this is something the globalists or whatever didn't anticipate, because I think they're always 10 steps ahead.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
But I mean, I think they'll let people, like a Dogecoin. Like my boy cashed out a lot of money on something that literally just started as a joke. So, I mean, I don't know how many more of those are going to come and go, if Bitcoin's always going to be the top shell. I know like Ethereum just took a big hit last week, but my boy keeps telling me, he's like, it's going to go up and down. It's going to keep going up and down. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, obviously the downsides are when to get in. Like, again, even with like the stock market, ladies and gentlemen, if you can't afford to lose the money, don't invest it. You know what I mean? But I was turned on to one called Ravencoin, like 3 or 4 years ago. It's called Ravencoin, and it was 0.00008, I think it was. And my dumbass was told about it and didn't do shit about it, because I don't get it. I'm like, that's not even a fucking penny. But if you invest tens of millions of shares, or of buy tens of millions of coins or something that's 0.00008, and just last year it went to 25 fucking cents, I would have been paid. So, I mean, there's way more to it than all of that, market cap and, you know, all that other shit. But that's what people don't get. They see, like, it's not even a fucking cent. What are you talking about? But that's how you got to study each one, what companies might be jumping on board, what, you know, government contracts they might have, et cetera. Because you can hopefully anticipate when it's going to go up. It's always going to go up and down. But, you know, Bitcoin, there's going to be more up-and-comers that challenge your Litecoins, your Ethereums, your, you know, Shiba Inu. I mean, there's so many different ones that everyone tells me about.
There's tons, dude. Tons.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, because, like, again, I struggle with like organic things, and I think that's perfect. So there's been all this alien talk lately, and what is your, you know, Tom DeLonge? My God, I can't stand that dude. But what's your take on, I guess, on what's going on in like the disclosure alien world?
Yeah, no, we just are literally, like I said, we haven't done our show since December. We did our first one last week with Harvard professor of science, astrophysicist Avi Loeb. He's the one who discovered that Oumuamua object, the first object ever from interstellar space to come into our solar system. So we talked to him about all of that cool shit. excuse me. And I asked him that as well. You know, it's again being the fucking cynical asshole I am. I've just been seeing too much stuff in the news. Oh, the Navy, they're starting to think this might be something, and then the Pentagon report, and then you know a moo. I mean, it's just I call it soft disclosure. Again, conditioning. They have to roll it out nice and slow. They can't just have the mothership come down. But I mean, and that's not to say they're in coordination with them. But anyway, I think it's interesting. I think it's very interesting. Of course, we know alien. I'm sorry. I know. I mean, we're alien to them. Like aliens is a very subjective term. Depends on where you're looking at it from. But of course, there's other fucking life out there. Really, every star is a sun with planets potentially around them. I mean, you talk about the billions of galaxies, not just galaxies. But anyway, that would just be stupid to think we weren't. So I know something's up. You know, something's been up for a very long time. I think we've been visited before, and I think some of our history going back to the Anunnaki, not to get all into that, but I mean, I think it's, you know, not even just the American people, but people, what the American people don't know is what makes them the American people. And you can say that about any country across the globe. They keep us very compartmentalized and very stupid.
Yeah.
You know, you go back to fucking Galileo and he's like, no. This isn't a fucking geocentric solar system. We're going around the sun. The church was not cool with that, their narrative getting shat on. So they fucking killed his ass. You know what I mean? And that you could extrapolate that today. Anything outside of the constructed narrative, where there's fucking 9/11, JFK, vaccines, masks, etc., they shut that shit down because they got to keep us. You know, we're like the Matrix. We're ones and zeros, man. We're just fuel for the machine. So to answer, I went off on a rant there, but I think we are seeing a certain measure of soft disclosure. But in the Pentagon report, which came out yesterday, they were doubting the fact that it was aliens. Well, of course, that's what they're going to say. But as I was thinking, like, they're going to blame a Russia or a China for having this next tech, this DARPA fucking black project type shit. They're going to blame it on a country. You know what I mean? And then that'll then help us, give us a reason to pull out our fucking big dick, which is the next level tech. So, I mean, who knows, dude? Who knows? It's a crazy time to be alive. You know, like I was saying, with like Starlink, and in my opinion, you know, they're taking huge steps to kind of weaponize space. You know, it's just very, very interesting times, man.
Well, with the aliens, like, you know, they've made that tie, or there's ties with the occult and I struggle like with them ever telling the truth. So like, I don't know if it's like a plan to, you know, I'm, you know, Project Bluebeam or whatever. Do you have do you think that's something in the bench or in the pipeline?
Again, you know, like I said about the JFK, you know, once you realize shit went that south, anything's on the fucking table, bro. I'm serious. Anything's on the table. Going back to, I think, Eisenhower and Truman, people say like, no, we actually had you know, they came down. We met. Like, we had an agreement, like, hey, let us just do our thing. Don't interfere with our shit. You can take some cows if you want to and do whatever the fuck you want to do with some cows, but leave us alone. So anyway, I mean, there's so many different theories out there, and, you know, different books. And I don't know, like the Roswell shit, Colonel Philip Corso, very interesting book about the Roswell crash.
Right.
So, I mean, it's again, anything's possible, man. Anything is fucking possible. Do I think we're going to see some for real? That's what I was talking to Avi Loeb about, Dr. Avi Loeb. And he even said in previous interviews, I'm tired of we've been seeing images of these things for like since the 40s and 50s, always these blobs, these orbs. It's 2021. You know what I mean? We just supposedly saw what was going on Mars in fucking HD. Yeah. Can we get some sharpened images of these supposed objects? And for me, when I just continue to see that, it's just like, it's just more of the horse shit, more of the nonsense.
Yeah, right.
They can keep making, you know, ancient aliens TV shows and fucking UFO documentaries, and
so, you know, Corey Good can have a few more conventions.
Who's that?
Oh, Corey Good. You know, and like those guys.
Well, yeah, alien. I mean, yeah, they need a job, and I get it. Right. I mean, I don't want to call them grifters, because some of them really believe what the fuck they're doing.
Yes,
and some of them might have some truth to it, man. It's hard to say, but it's, you know, it's, I don't know if you remember, I'm dating myself here, but like the people who thought Elvis was alive, like conventions, people coming like fucking, I saw Elvis at the fucking supermarket, dude, I'm telling you. I mean, that was a real fucking thing, and not to shit on anybody who believes it, but in our first episode, when I was talking about like how fucking stupid people can be, and this was 6 years ago, I'm like, dude, there's a fucking flat earth society out there. People fucking honestly believe that shit.
Yeah,
and again,
dude.
if you believe it, you believe it. God love my boy Sam Tripoli. God love Eddie Bravo. I just respectfully disagree. But it's one of those like, really? An ice wall, gentlemen? The fucking really? All right, man. All right.
Dude, it's so hard. That's I think another there's like so much information and you get grouped into other groups, and that makes it even harder to distinguish the truth because you have all these like out or people that influencers or whatever you want to call them that push, and again it goes like your ego thing that they're right and you're wrong, whatever.
Well, and and again, it creates these little mini cults of personality like that.
Yeah.
And
Nice.
I really like Elon Musk, man. I mean, he's kind of the modern day Tony Stark, but my bullshit meter and my cynicism comes out when I hear him, dude. I was probably a little tipsy when I watched this. It was late at night. I watched Joe. He was on Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
And my mouth's just like fucking hanging open as he uses the Joe Rogan platform, one of the biggest podcasts ever, to say what he was saying, which was, no, man, it's going to be so dope. Little inch in diameter hole in your head. We put this Neuralink in. You're going to be like limitless, dude. If you're a paraplegic, you'll be able to walk. If you got Alzheimer's, you'll get your memories back. Dude, this is going to be fucking dope. And he's selling this kind of like transhumanist Neuralink that they can hijack your brain or whatever the fuck they can do with it to make it seem like it's so fucking cool, right? And and he has said, you know, with AI, it's not AI that's the problem. It's who wields the power of AI. But I agree with that. You know, it's like the Force. You want to be a Sith, you want to be a fucking Jedi type thing. But the Force is there, and the Force is real.
Yeah.
But it's like I got red flags when I like the shit he's doing, and it's cool. Fucking, you know, SpaceX, watching those Falcon rockets land themselves on Earth, whatever. That's just fucking cool TV to watch. But when I hear so not flippantly, but just like couched in such cool terms and using a medium like a Joe Rogan to talk about a Neuralink that will link with his Starlink and all, you know, when we start talking about Agenda 21, the Internet of Things and weaponizing, I mean, all of this. And, you know, again, I think we're ran by the eugenicist, transhumanist, technocratic, authoritarian, you know, so they're moving us towards this meld between man and human. That's why it's, you know, predictive programming with things like Rise of the Machine, the Terminators, and Skynet. We're literally looking at that shit right now.
Yeah.
I don't know. The UFO question. Yeah. So anything's possible, my friend. I was wondering where that question started.
No, that was, I like where it went. Well, like the transhumanist movement, I mean, that just continued. And they always bring it in with like, oh, think of all the people we could help. But you know, that's how they just present an idea.
Because they've always cared about us, right?
Right.
Like, come on, man, the vaccine, it's free. Yeah, because the medical industry and the government has always just given us free shit that really helps us out.
Dude, and that's that's also what's like so frightening. Like people believe this billionaire, you don't become a billionaire. I'm going to say probably all of them. Maybe there's an exception, unless you're like a psychopath, because you need to do all these certain things to maintain that wealth. But now a billionaire wants to help you. He cares about you.
And this notion that he just did all this shit in his garage, or like Zuckerberg did this shit at college. Dude. I mean, there was so much fucking government involvement in that shit. But yeah, I mean, you know, and it sounds lame, and I've heard it enough times, and I'm hating to hijack it. Like, hey, Gates. I'm sorry, I'm assuming. Hey, BG, you can't even keep viruses off your fucking operating system. Right. Don't talk to me about fucking global pandemics and getting rid of viruses. Fucking
yeah, dude. He's kind of he's like taking a back seat, it seems, since his wife.
Well, and again, this is another thing. They're burning Gates. They're burning Fauci. Mm-hmm. They're finally fucking realizing, oh, I'm not on the team. I'm expendable.
Interesting.
And this is what happens throughout fucking history. This is why, you know, I appreciate the sentiment and the understanding of Black Lives Mattering, but they're weaponizing that group. You know, again, play groups off against each other. And now that Biden and Kamala have no intention of doing anything they fucking said, now they're pissed at Biden and Kamala, like, whoa, I thought we had a seat at the fucking table. No, go back and read the Bolshevik fucking revolution when you're useless idiots. I understand you think your heart's in the right place, but when they're done with you, either they literally line you up against the fucking wall or shoot you, or they just ghost you because they're done with you. Go back and fucking listen to Yuri Bezmenov and talk about ideological subversion and what they do to the communists when they're done with them. You think you're on the fucking team, but it's just they're just weaponizing you and just using you. And that's not even just Black Lives Matter. That's You name it, Proud Boys.
Right.
You name it. That's what they do.
Yeah. No, I think that's a very, you're absolutely right, dude. And it's amazing, like how these people, like I feel like they do these things to get those emotional rise to even divide, like with the statues and all this stuff like that. Like it's just,
of course.
It's it's
a clown show. Again,
that's what I was gonna say. Yeah.
I mean, people's hearts may be in the right place, but again, not to realize, you're just being played. You're literally just being played.
Yeah, I don't know how you get the public to accept that. What's the Mark Twain quote? It's easier to convince someone
they've been fooled, it's easier to fool somebody than to convince somebody they've been fooled.
Yeah, yeah.
And again, going back to the the weaponization of groups and playing groups off against each other. You look at it. It's everywhere on every aspect. Now it's mass vaccines. You got political. You got religious. You got LBG, RSP, LMNOP. They're firing on all cylinders. Meanwhile, at the top, they're continuing to do what they do.
So you think that they're done with Fauci and Gates, and that's why they're out of the limelight?
Dude, like you just said, if the government doesn't want it to happen, it doesn't happen. I don't give a fuck what Freedom of Information Act got Fauci's emails. They could have stonewalled that to the end of fucking time, but they let it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bill and Melinda Gates getting divorced. They could have not even mentioned that, but they talked all about it. What? Bill Gates had a mistress at work? If they didn't want that shit out, it wouldn't have fucking come out. Because the media pretty much just takes instructions. And so, they'll burn anybody. Again, the president was driving through on a nice sunny afternoon, sitting next to his wife. His son's birthday was that following Sunday. Blew his fucking brains out. Broad fucking daylight, public execution. They do not give a fuck.
So what's next, dude? Because I would love to be positive and be like, the energy's changing, people are waking up, but I don't know.
Well, again, don't allow external circumstances to fuck with your internal equanimity, right? You're always gonna have the dark side doing dark side shit, black magic shit. It's always been going on. We make the choice. You can be conscious, have your opinion, but don't let your opinion have you. You know what I mean? You still have to take care of yourself. And in the world in ubiquitous darkness, it's our job to stay in the light, man. I don't know if you're married, you got a girlfriend. Love your girl, love your family, stay in love with life. Don't allow this dark shit to fuck with you. Just be conscious that it's happening. Know what's happening. Don't let it around you. Even if before 2020, marriage, when people were first with Trump or whatever, marriages were ending. Families weren't speaking off of a fucking election.
You're so
that's
right.
That's like you and I. Yo, dude, if you think Andre the Giant's gonna beat Hulk Hogan, you and I could never fucking speak again. Arguing and having huge consequences over a rigged fucking game. And so that's when you talk about what's next, dude. This too shall pass. And I think we will end up in a better place as human beings. I'm trying to be positive. As human beings who have elevated our consciousness to the point where we can respect each other's differences. We can see each other's differences and respect them, as opposed to seeing that and being, you're the other. You know what I mean? Go bring a fucking white guy from the suburbs. Go to a fucking a black person's barbecue, or and enjoy it. It'll be beautiful. Black folks, go to the fucking just enjoy other cultures, enjoy other races, enjoy other languages, learn other languages instead of seeing these things as the other, because that's what they want as a part of the divide and conquer. So again, we're gonna go through some very rough times, dude. I think we're gonna go through some very rough times because so many things are transitioning right now. The economic bubble is about to burst at any time.
Is that your thing? Do you think that?
Well, that's a huge, absolutely. You can't just pump money into the fucking
absolutely,
trillions and trillions and expect things to be sustainable. We're still not even back to where we were pre-COVID. I don't give a fuck what they say. There are still places not even 100%. Even if they are 100%, they can't find workers. They're having to pay workers more, which they can't sustain. So, and I think possibly, if not fall, winter, in the next, I'll just be generous, the next year, we could potentially be seeing another lockdown, whether it's because of the Delta virus or what other virus that spring up that possibly could spring up, and no business can withstand that, right? People, I mean, look at the psychological standpoint, the suicides, emergency room visits for kids because they were getting abused, domestic violence, people beating their fucking dogs. We can't go through this again, economically, psychologically, spiritually. But I think there's a huge possibility that they will drop the hammer again.
Damn, dude, that sounds horrible.
Well, it's always darkest before the dawn, my man. And again, like I said, with this Agenda 21, this is a 100-year plan. We're in year 1. There's so much. This place that we won't be around, but it'll be unrecognizable in 100 years. Absolutely unrecognizable. Yeah. And we're just, again, when you start seeing hacks, oh, the oil pipeline's down. Oh, this meat production company that feeds like 1/5 of the fucking planet. Oh, it's more is to come. And then I posted on my page the other day, the National Guard and this cyber polygon, they just did a drill, quote unquote drill. We know what happens sometimes when drills happen on a national grid, on a hack that shuts down the grid nationally for long periods of time.
Nice.
I mean, even one day, that's the thing. When we go back to cryptocurrency, I wouldn't put all my chips in one basket simply because what if there's a fucking an EMP? The grid goes down. You can't get to your wallet. You can't transact anymore. So again, when you start going back, you talk about your grandfather or whoever it was, homesteading back in the day. Hey man, go back to the simple shit, barter systems, if you will. Because when cash goes away, you're gonna have to be able to exchange something for something.
Yeah. Yeah, I buy precious metal. Yeah, but it's a great point, dude. And I didn't know they just did a drill on a grid shutdown.
Yeah, the National Guard did it, and did I post it yet? It's called Cyber Polygon. If you remember what Event 201 was, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Johns Hopkins University, World Economic Forum, they did this event called Event 201, literally months before, like just 3 or 4 months before COVID kicked off.
Nice.
It was basically this simulation. They did the whole fake news stories of this virus that escaped from a bat. This is before anything kicked off, bro. They had the same script down. And if you remember, December and January on Netflix, there was a docu-series that Bill Gates produced called Surviving a Pandemic. This is before shit even kicked off, bro.
Well, 9/11, they did the same thing, right? I mean, there's
anytime you start hearing about drills, you got to be skeptical when you start hearing about drills.
Yeah.
But again, even when everything kicked off, you kept hearing rumors about, even though they might be bullshit, things about, hashtag blackout. What the fuck's that mean? Dark winter, which is something going back to post 9/11 and the anthrax stuff. But you start seeing this language floated around, and you just got to pay attention to it. Don't freak out and hyper obsess about it, but just put it in the mental Rolodex and realize these are the terms they're kind of throwing out on a possibly subconscious level to condition us, to get us used to the possibility.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, I think you brought up some great, what's next for you, dude? Because I know you, like you said, you guys took a little bit of a break with your podcasting. And so what's next for you?
Well, yeah, man, we're going to fire it back up. I don't know how frequently we'll be able to do it, but I mean, it'll be more frequent. You won't be waiting for months anymore, maybe a week or two, because I work a lot. Pat's got a lot of shit going on. And so, I mean, we have a couple more coming up, obviously, here in the next week or two. I'm still here in Iowa probably for another month or so, probably be heading back to St. Louis close to the end of the summer. And then we'll be firing back up Caged Aggression, which is the promotion, the worldwide promotion now. It's on pay-per-view. We have events coming up at the end of summer, beginning of fall. So
nice.
I try to tell people like, hey, man, I can't find a job, this and that. Like, dude, more people are going into business for themselves than ever. Have as many stakes in the fire as humanly possible. Don't be pigeonholed by, if you got to do a 9 to 5, it is what it is. You got to pay the bills, man. Yeah. But again, with jobs being so fleeting, especially in 2020, and some of them, not to segue too much, but as AI and robotic shit takes over, they're going to be taking over a lot of fucking jobs. Absolutely, here in the next several years. So retrain yourself, get yourself into something you can be passionate about, hopefully monetize it, teach that to your kids as well, because, your server jobs, your food and beverage hospitality gigs, so much of that shit's just not going to be available. And so many people have put themselves through college and fed their families on those kind of positions. Mm-hmm. That's why that's such a engine of our economy, is those kind of jobs. And when they got decimated over 2020, just people's families, savings, and businesses that have been around for 100 years plus or whatever, they're gone. They're gone. And so that's just a harbinger, in my opinion, of things to come. So
I think that's great. Yeah. Learn new skills, better yourself.
Yeah. And like I said, learn to speak another fucking language, dude.
Yeah, dude. Well, Jeff, I'm so appreciative you came on my show, dude. Like I said, I've been listening to you for a long time. So it's like, it's an honor, dude. So
I appreciate the invite, man, and continued success for what you got going on.
Thank you, dude. Where can everyone find you and listen to you, all that stuff?
Well, as a part of kind of switching up the algorithm, and it was kind of kill two birds with one stone. We have value with our platform, with the Conspiracy Farm platform. We're over 100 countries with millions of listeners, and we weren't doing this show that much. So I changed the name of, I created a network. It's called That Podcast Network. And on that is my show. It's me speaking to you, Everything Combat, and the Conspiracy Farm. So if you punch in That Podcast Network, you'll find us. If you punch in the Conspiracy Farm, you'll find us. If you just want to go to theconspiracyfarm.com, you'll find us. But going back to the platform, I wanted to give voice, like up and coming shows, man, who I know have potential, who've been up and doing it for 6-8 months. They've knocked out the kinks, but they got powerful content. Starting my show, which is what got me doing the show with Pat, was called Me Speaking to You. And you kind of toil in obscurity, right? Because it's hard to get your name out there. So I'm just having people, if they want to sign up for the platform, it puts you on, it just gives you kind of a head start, if you will. You know what I mean?
Nice idea, dude. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and it's, again, I don't want people to stay on for a long time, dude. I want people to be on just for a little bit, maybe 3-6 months or whatever it is. And then hopefully the value of that platform manifests once they go to advertisers. Hey, man, I'm on a network with, we just top 4 million listeners, over 100 countries.
That's great.
I mean, awesome. That's kind of small numbers in podcasts, but I mean, people are listening from across the world.
That's a great, dude. You should be very proud. That's awesome.
I am. Yeah. Believe me. It's been but again, advertisers, sponsors, they love hearing that kind of shit. So they can go and hopefully from being on the platform, use that and add value to their platform when they go off and do their stuff on their own. So long story short, you can find us at The Conspiracy Farm. When you go to the episodes, you'll find it'll be the SoundCloud page. So you'll find other shows on there, but you could, they're clearly labeled The Conspiracy Farm, or like I said, That Podcast Network. We're at Conspiracy Farm 1 on Twitter, and we have a Facebook page, The Conspiracy Farm.
Awesome, dude. So, well, I'll put all those links there. And again, I'm super appreciative, and thanks for coming on, man.
Absolutely. Thank you, my man. You take care and enjoy
your
weekend.
Jeff.